Well, let's talk right now about something that's happened overnight and could happen in 2024. Last night at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, Donald Trump said this.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Yeah, making America glorious and great again. Yes, Donald Trump has confirmed at long last that he is going to be running for the Republican nomination, one assumes, for the American presidency. Tom Packer is a research fellow at the Rothermere American Institute at Oxford University and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Thank
Julia.
you very much indeed for joining us once again, Tom. Well, last time we spoke to you was, I think, before the midterms. Did not go as well as many expected. Certainly didn't see that red wave. A lot of the Trump-backed candidates did rather badly compared to with others. And yet we are still seeing this announcement from Donald Trump. What does that tell us anything?
I mean, I think it tells us his fear of losing is weaker than his desire for attention. I think to some degree he's running in order to preempt. He realizes Donald Trump has his weaknesses, but he realizes he's a great person for grabbing the news story. But the news story at the moment is exactly what you said. Republicans do badly. Trump candidates do particularly badly. And he's trying to create a news story. And I think you saw that in what he was saying in his speech. He was talking about the death penalty for drug dealers. He was talking about China. He was talking about peace. He's trying to create a new story. And, obviously the story will move on. I'm sure he'll get a lot of media attention.
Yeah. Well, indeed. I mean, Fox News has always been very supportive of Donald Trump, although called him out on his saying that the American presidency was stolen from him in 2022. But eventually, they cut away because he went rambling on for an hour. In fact, that's quite a short speech for him. They eventually did cut away and ran the highlights, such as they are. The thing is, he does still have this huge base, doesn't he? And he does still have an enormous amount of control within the Republican Party. Many Republicans would quite happily be shot of him, but they just can't get shot of him because of the power that he has. Do you think that he will be the Republican candidate?
I like many people, have underrated him before, and I certainly don't think he can be ruled out. But I think I would now put the odds against him being it. I'd also not exaggerate his power within the Republican Party. His power is, to a large degree, always has, but perhaps particularly now, comes from normal voters. Because the way it works in America is anybody who supports the Republican Party, and sometimes who don't, can just register as Republican and support them, or the Democratic Party, and then they get a chance to pick their nominee for president. The elite don't like him, and I think only one congressman who's outgoing came to his announcement, despite him trying to get many to come.
Yeah, and people were claiming there were problems with the weather affecting their flights, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, but and I don't think this is all excuse. I think a few would have turned up, but not very many. And he is, and it's a big day. They're picking their party leadership in the House yesterday, but there is indications that the fabled base is moving away from him. So if you look at some of the polling, he is now running behind Ron DeSantis, the big new thing, in lots of the key states, such as Iowa and New Hampshire, which people might well remember from a few years back, are the first states to vote in the nomination. Now, I wouldn't necessarily trust all these polls. They don't weigh for education in some cases, and Trump has tended to do better among people who didn't go to university. But there's a big indication, and that's why, at least one reason why he's running now.
The polls are often wrong on this thing. You mentioned Ron DeSantis of Florida, who won a landslide victory, with 20 points ahead of his nearest rival in Florida for the governorship there. And some of the polls are saying that actually he'd be more popular. I think certainly he's someone who's able to appeal to swing voters far more than Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is someone by now you've decided you either love him or you hate him. But the people who hate him really, really hate him. Do you think if he's not selected as a Republican candidate and someone like Ron DeSantis is, do you think Donald Trump would just say, oh, well, fair enough, I'm a good loser, because they've seen that in him, and not a problem? Or do you think he'll run as an independent? Because if he did run as an independent, we could see destruction of the Republican vote. That would halve effectively the Republican vote, wouldn't it? In which case you would see a Democrat winning.
If he told people to vote for the Republicans in Congress, it might not hurt. It might even help them in Congress. But obviously the presidency matters as well. I think it's hard to tell. He will definitely be a bad loser. There's one thing Donald Trump is a bad loser if he loses, which is by no means guaranteed. A lot of people in 2016 were saying he was going to be a bad loser, and then he won, of course. I do think he might end up rallying behind, though. partly because he would lose so many of his fans if he went independent, partly he would lose his influence, partly it would then be a massive vindication of Biden and the Democrats. So I think his behavior then is unpredictable, and he won't want to spend money on an independent run either.
Yes, that's a very good point. Doesn't actually like spending so many. Let's have another little listen to something he had to say about basically how everything was so much better under the Trump presidency.
2 years ago, when I left office, the United States stood ready for its golden age. Our nation was at the pinnacle of power, prosperity, and prestige, towering above all rivals, vanquishing all enemies, and striding into the future, confident and so strong. In 4 short years, everybody was doing great. Men, women, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, everybody was thriving like never before.
I mean, was everyone thriving when he left office? I think we were still in the middle of COVID lockdowns, weren't we? Then it's quite interesting, that, isn't it?
It is. Like, politicians tend not to put the most negative spin on that. I thought the weirdest thing about that was he said 3 years ago. It's only been 2 years ago. It's a particularly odd mistake to make from him. But I would point out COVID lockdowns. Trump maybe should get some credit for this, though certainly others like Ron DeSantis should as well, did end earlier in the US. So in many ways, at least much of America had got beyond them when he left office. But yeah, it's obviously partial. Having said that, one of the hopes for him is the fact that Republicans obviously feel the Democrats are doing a terrible job in the primary. But also normal voters dislike things like inflation. Biden isn't very popular, which is why whoever wins the Republican nomination, I think Trump's likely to be the weakest candidate, should be taken seriously for winning.
Yep, absolutely.
Joe Biden might win re-election, but it's very far from guaranteed.
Tom Packer, it's going to be fascinating to watch, as it always is in American politics. Thank you very much indeed. This quick word from Russell Quirk, who's watching all of this. I know you love American politics as well. I mean, it will be fascinating. I don't know if I've got the energy for it.
No, I know. Trump is completely delusional. And of course, look, very quickly, he has a number of obstacles, doesn't he? January the 6th, the classified document thing, and the fact that he's a loser.
Civil investigations, criminal investigations.
But apart from that,
what else? Apart from that, I don't think it'll stop him. Who knows?